perfect competition, which is a particular form of market. In economics, whenever and wherever exchange takes place between the consumers and the farms, that will be called a market. Perfect competition is the simplest possible form of any market. If you want to read or write any language, you will have to learn the alphabets, which are the basics. Just like that, if you want to know about the markets, you will have to learn about the simplest possible form of any market, which is perfect competition. Perfect competition does not exist in the reality, but it is the simplest form which should be understood in order to understand the real forms of market. What does competition mean in any market? Competition means the rivalry between the farms. Competition involves one farm trying to take away market share from another farm. Now, in reality, competitions are not perfect because all farms are not equally powerful. Obviously, stronger farms will defeat the weaker farms. So in that case, there will be no fair competition. And also, there are some restrictions of entry or exit of the farms in the market. As a result of that, competition becomes imperfect or unfair in reality. What do we mean by perfectly competitive market? Now, a perfectly competitive market is one market in which economic forces operate unrestricted. That means there is no artificial restriction in terms of entry or exit of the farms in the market. Secondly, all the farms are equally powerful. That means there is no stronger or weaker farm. So, in this form of market, all the farms can fairly or perfectly compete with each other. A perfectly competitive market has the following requirements. Any market has to meet these following requirements in order to be defined as a perfectly competitive market. First of all, both the buyers and the sellers are price takers. Secondly, the number of farms is large. That means an individual farm is a microscopic part of the whole industry, and that is why it cannot influence the market price by any means. The number of buyers is also large. That means an individual buyer is a negligible part of the whole market, and therefore he cannot bargain to increase or decrease or change the price. So both the buyers and the sellers are price takers. There are no barriers of entry or exit in the market. So therefore, any farm can open up itself within the market at any time or exit from the market at any time. There is total information or complete information about the price, quantity, situation. So therefore, neither any farm nor any buyer can influence or can change the situation so that the farm or the buyer can get any advantage through changing the situation. Because if it does so, if it is done like that, then all the other farms or all the other consumers will be informed about the change. So it is not possible for any farm or any individual to influence the market by changing any price or quantity situation or by bargaining. Demand faced by each farm is independent from that of other farms because there is no influence, because there is no rivalry between the farms. All the farms are equally powerful, so their demand faced by each farm is independent from that of the other farms. All farms are classical firms, they will pursue their individual interest. So they will try to maximize their profit. That's why firms are profit maximizers. Now let us discuss about the short-run demand curve of a firm in a perfectly competitive market. Since the price level is constant in a perfectly competitive market and the firm as well as the buyers are price takers, each firm can sell any amount of product at the given price level. Therefore, the demand curve or the average revenue curve for a firm is the same as the marginal revenue curve and it is horizontal. That is, it is perfectly elastic. So, in a perfectly competitive market, for a particular firm, average revenue is equal to marginal revenue is equal to price, which is none other than the horizontal demand curve of the firm. Now, let us talk about the short-run demand curve of the industry in a perfectly competitive firm. We already know that short-run demand curve of individual firms is horizontally sloped, is horizontal or perfectly elastic. But all the firms taken together has a great influence on the market because there are large number of firms. So as a result, all the firms taken together actually faces a large amount of demand, which is the industry demand. So therefore, the industry demand follows the law of demand, and as price increases, demand decreases, and as price decreases, demand increases. That is, industry demand curve is negatively sloped. Now, how the negatively sloped industry demand curve can be derived is shown in the following figure. In panel A, we show the let us assume that there are two firms in the industry, firm 1 and firm 2. So in panel A, the demand curves of the firm 1 is shown. In the panel B, demand curve of the firm 2 is shown, and in the panel C, demand curve of the whole industry is shown. As price level, at the price level P0, the demand curve of firm 1 will be P0 equal to AR0 equal to MR0, which is a horizontal curve. Now at price P0, demand faced by firm 1 will be OQ0. Similarly, at price P0, demand curve for firm 2 is P0 equal to AR prime 0 equal to MR prime 0. And the demand faced by firm 2 will be OQ prime 0. So, the industry demand will be the summation of the demand faced by the firm 1 and firm 2. That is the summation of OQ0 and OQ prime 0, which is shown as OQE0 in panel C. Again, at price P1, the demand curve faced by firm 1 will be AR1 equal to MR1 equal to P1, and demand faced by firm 1 will be OQ1. And demand curve of firm 2 will be AR prime 1 equal to MR prime 1 equal to P1, and demand faced by firm 2 will be OQ prime 1. So, the industry demand will be summation of OQ1 and OQ prime 1, which is shown as OQE1 in panel C. Similarly, at price 2, P2, demand curve will of the firm 1 will be AR2 equal to MR2 equal to P2, and demand faced by it will be OQ2. Demand curve of firm 2 will be AR prime 2 equal to MR prime 2 equal to P2, and demand faced by firm 2 will be OQ prime 2. So, industry demand will be summation of OQ2 and OQ prime 2, which is shown as OQE2. So, therefore, for price level P0, industry demand will be OQE0. For price level P1, industry demand will be OQE1. For price level P2, industry demand will be OQE2. So, All these combinations are shown as points A, B and C in panel C. Joining these points we get the negatively sloped straight line, which is the industry demand curve. So we have proved that industry demand curve in short run in a perfectly competitive market is negatively sloped and it follows the law of demand. Now, what are the short run equilibrium conditions of a firm in a perfectly competitive market? What is short run? Short run is a short period of time when the firm does not have that capacity to change all the factors if it wishes. So there are two types of factors. One are first category is the variable factor and the second category is the fixed factor. The fixed factor cannot be changed in the short run and only the variable factor can be changed. So to increase the output, the firm has to change the variable factor only and the fixed factor remains fixed. Now cost for the variable factor is called total variable cost and cost for the fixed factor is called total fixed cost. So total cost of the firm is equal to total variable cost plus total fixed cost. And as we have already mentioned that to increase the amount of output, the firm has to increase the amount of total variable factors, that is firm has to incur to increase the total variable cost. So total variable cost is a function of output. So we can write it in the form that TC equal to TVCQ plus TFC. So profit of the firm will be total revenue minus total cost. Total revenue once again is a function of Q. So pi equal to TRQ minus TVCQ plus TFC. Now equilibrium is the situation when the firm can maximize its profit. So as the profit is maximum, the firm has no inclination to change its output. So change in the output will be zero. So the first order condition or necessary condition will be that change in the output will be zero. That is, first order derivative of profit with respect to output will be equal to 0 or d pi dq will be equal to 0. So d pi dq can be written as dtr dq minus d tvc dq, which is equal to 0. In other words, dtr dq is equal to d tvc dq. Now dtr dq is none other than the marginal revenue and d tvc dq is none other than the marginal cost in the short run, which is once again equal to price. We have already shown that marginal revenue is equal to price in a perfectly competitive firm. So therefore first order condition of the firm will be of equilibrium of the firm will be marginal revenue equal to marginal cost equal to price. Now this is only the necessary condition. There is another condition which is called second order condition or sufficient condition. Now what will be the sufficient condition of profit maximization? Suppose that a man climbs a hill. Now when he reaches at the toppest point, if he reaches at the optimum situation. Now from this optimum situation, if he wants to go further, then he has to step down. He has to come down in both directions. So in other words, mathematically speaking, the second order derivative will be negative, will be less than 0 in any kind of maximization. So therefore in profit maximization also, the second order derivative will be less than 0. That is d square pi dq square is less than 0. It can be written as d square tr dq square minus d square tvc dq square less than 0. That means d square tr dq square is less than d square tvc dq square. Now d square tr dq square can be written as d of dtr dq and d square tvc dq square can be written as d of dtvc dq. Now dtr dq is none other than marginal revenue and dtvc dq is none other than marginal cost. So therefore it turns out to be dmr dq is less than dmc dq. Now dmr dq is the slope of marginal revenue curve and dmc dq is the slope of marginal cost curve. So the second order condition is slope of marginal revenue is less than slope of marginal cost curve. Now we represent diagrammatically the short run equilibrium of a perfectly competitive firm. In this diagram, we are measuring output in the horizontal axis and average revenue, marginal revenue, price and marginal cost in the vertical axis. So the demand curve or average revenue curve is shown as the horizontal line shown by V equal to AR equal to MR. And SNC is the U-shaped curve, which is the marginal cost curve. So the intersection point between the marginal cost curve and the marginal revenue curve will be the equilibrium point. So here we have two intersection points, A and B. So both fulfill the first order condition of equilibrium. So at A, the firm produces Q0 amount of output. At B, firm produces QE amount of output. For both the situation, price level is fixed at PE. Now at point E, the marginal cost curve is downward sloping, that is its slope is negative. On the other hand, marginal revenue curve is horizontal, that is its slope is 0. So this is violating the second order condition because slope of the marginal cost curve here is less than slope of the marginal revenue curve. But at point B, marginal cost curve is upward rising, that is its slope is positive, and marginal revenue curve is horizontal, that is its slope is 0. So therefore it fulfills the second order condition, that is slope of the marginal revenue curve is less than slope of the marginal cost curve. So the point B fulfills both the necessary and the sufficient condition for short run equilibrium. Therefore, finally we can come to the conclusion that the short run equilibrium point will be the point B. So at short run equilibrium, the firm will produce QE amount of output and at price PE. Now, what is the exact amount of profit incurred by a perfectly competitive firm in any short run situation? Now, this depends upon the position of the short run average cost curve. Here we are showing three situations in these three curves. In the figure A, short run average cost curve lies below the marginal revenue curve. Short run marginal cost curve, the average cost curve lies below the marginal average revenue curve. Now, area under the average cost curve is the total cost of the firm, and area under the average revenue curve is the total revenue of the firm. So here, total cost is denoted by OQEAD, and total revenue is denoted by OQEBPE. So here total revenue is greater than total cost. Therefore, the firm will enjoy supernormal profit, which is shown by the area ABPED, which is the shaded blue area. So in this situation, if the short run average cost curve lies below the average revenue curve, the firm will earn supernormal profit. Now in figure B, short run average cost curve is tangent to the average revenue curve. Therefore, area under both the curves is the same, which is denoted by OQEBPE. So, total revenue is equal to total cost. That means the firm will earn zero profit or normal profit in this situation. In figure C, the short run average cost curve lies above the average revenue curve. So, therefore, area under short run average cost curve, that is total cost, is greater than area under the average revenue curve, that is total revenue. So therefore cost is higher than revenue. So the firm will incur loss in this case, which is denoted by the area ABCDE, which is a shaded area. Now we will discuss about the short run supply curve of a perfectly competitive firm. Supply curve of a firm represents different amounts of the product supplied by the firm at different prices. A perfectly competitive firm maximizes profit by producing a quantity of output that equates marginal revenue and marginal cost. Since price is equal to marginal revenue in a perfectly competitive firm, price is also equal to the marginal cost. In other words, a firm produces by moving up and down for different levels of price along its marginal cost curve. Therefore, the marginal cost curve is the perfectly competitive firm's short-term supply curve. However, the firm can supply different amounts of the product only on the upward rising portion of the marginal cost curve, since at all equilibrium points slope of the marginal cost curve must be positive and greater than the slope of the marginal revenue curve, which is equal to 0. The lowest point of the short-run supply curve is the shutdown point of the firm. That is the minimum point of the average variable cost curve, at which the average variable cost curve intersects the marginal cost curve. To the left of the shutdown point, the firm cannot produce anything. Therefore, this portion of the marginal cost curve is not included in the supply curve of the firm. Hence, the short-run supply curve of the perfectly competitive firm is the upward rising portion of the marginal cost curve starting from the shutdown point. Now, this is shown in the following, in this figure. In this figure, upward rising portion of the short-run supply curve starting from the short-run intersection point between the short-run marginal cost curve and short-run average variable cost curve is SMCA. That is, A is the intersection point between the short-run average variable cost curve and the short-run marginal cost curve. Now, starting from this point, the upward rising portion will be same as the short-run supply curve of the firm. So, therefore, stretching all these points to the panel B, we are getting all the price quantity combinations in the equilibrium. So, for the price level P0, quantity will be Q0. Here A is the mirror image, A dash is the mirror image of point A, which is the shutdown point of the firm. Then for price level P1, the firm will produce output Q1, and the combination is shown by point B dash in the panel B, which is the mirror image of point B in panel A. Then for the price level P2, the firm will produce output Q2, and the combination is shown by the point C prime in the panel B, which is the mirror image of point C in the panel A. So, joining all these 3 points, that is A prime, B prime and C prime, we get the upward rising supply curve of the firm, short-run supply curve of the firm in a perfectly competitive market. Short-run supply curve of the industry in a perfectly competitive market. The industry supply curve of a perfectly competitive market in the short run is the horizontal summation of the supply curves of individual firms. We assume that factor prices and technology are given and the number of firms is very large. We also assume that supply curves of different individual firms are independent. Under these assumptions, total quantity supplied by the industry at any price level is the summation of quantities supplied by each individual firm at that price level. However, if the supply curves of the firms are interdependent, then it may be possible that although supply curves of the individual firms are upward rising, industry supply curve may be horizontal or downward sloping. However, these cases are exceptional and we rule out all these cases. So therefore, we come to the conclusion that individual supply curves are upward rising in any perfectly competitive market, and also the industry supply curve is upward rising in this market. Now in this following diagram, we assume that there are two firms in the industry, firm 1 and firm 2, and the supply curves of firm 1 and firm 2 are shown in panel 1 and panel A and B in the diagram. And the summation of these two supply curves is the industry supply curve, which is shown in the panel C. Now, since both the firms have upward rising supply curve, the summation of them will also be an upward rising curve, which is the industry supply curve. So for price level P0, industry supply will be QE0, which is summation of OQ0 and OQ prime 0. For price level P1, industry supply will be OQE1, which is the summation of OQ1 and OQ prime 1. For price level P2, industry supply will be OQE2, which is the summation of OQ2 and OQ prime 2. about the short-run equilibrium of the industry in a perfectly competitive market. Now, in a perfectly competitive market, short-run equilibrium of the industry is determined by the interaction between market demand and market supply. In other words, short-run equilibrium is reached when the total demand for any commodity from the consumer's end equals the total supply of the commodity from the farm's end. Now, diagrammatically, we are showing that short-run equilibrium of the industry is the intersection point between the industry demand curve and the industry supply curve, which is shown by the point E in the figure. Now, this is a stable equilibrium point. We can show that. Now, if the market reaches at the equilibrium, then price will be PE and quantity will be QE. Now, suppose that the price is above the equilibrium price, that is, price is P1. So now at this point, total supply of the industry will be P1N and total demand of the industry will be P1M. So there is a situation of excess supply, which is shown by MA. Now this excess supply cannot be sold easily. So to sell this excess amount of output, the farms will compete with each other and they will reduce the price. So price will be reduced and some farms will exit from the industry. So this process will continue until the price comes down to level PE, where industry demand will be equal to industry supply. Now suppose if the price level is P0, which is less than the equilibrium price level, at that point, at that price level, total demand is P0L and total supply of the industry is P0K. So there is a situation of excess demand, which is shown by KL. Now at this situation, the total supply is less than total demand. So to get that small amount of output, the consumers will compete with each other, and due to this competition, the price will increase, and this will continue up to the point where the price level rises to PE, where industry demand is equal to industry supply. So therefore, this equilibrium point of the industry is a stable equilibrium point. Whenever the price is different from this equilibrium point, equilibrium level of price, then the market will automatically there will be an automatic mechanism in the market which will once again turn the price level to the equilibrium level. Let us talk about the long run equilibrium of the farm and industry in the perfectly competitive market. Long run is a conceptual time period when all factors of production are variable. In the long run, there is no fixed factor of production. The farms change production levels in response to economic profits or losses, and all the factors of production are variable in the long run. Therefore, in the long run, the farm can adjust its plant size so as to produce at the minimum point of its long run average cost curve, which is tangent to the average revenue curve defined by the market price. In the long run, perfectly competitive farms can only earn normal profit. If they enjoy positive profits, new farms get attracted and enter into the industry, since entry is free in this market. Entry of these new farms raises the amount of supply and reduces the price level downwards, and also raises the average cost curve upwards with the increase in the factor prices as demand for factors increases with the increase in the industry production. These changes continue until the long run average cost curve is tangent to the long run average revenue curve defined as the price level at its minimum point. On the contrary, if the existing farm incur losses, high cost farms exit from the industry, since exit is free in this market. Exit of some farms reduces the amount of supply and raises the price level upwards, and also reduces the average cost, and so the average cost curve will shift downwards with the decline in the factor prices, as demand for factors decreases with the decline in the industry production. These changes continue until the long run average cost curve is tangent to the demand curve defined by the price level at its minimum point. This means ultimately all the existing firms can only earn normal profit in the long run equilibrium situation. And in the industry, as the long run equilibrium of the farm and industry is shown in this following figure. In the right side of the diagram, that is in panel B, we are showing the long run equilibrium of a particular farm, and in the left side we are showing the long run equilibrium of the industry. And suppose when the price level is P0, that is which is above the equilibrium level of price, the farm is enjoying the positive profit, since average cost curve SAC0 is lying under the average revenue curve, and as a result the farm is enjoying supernormal profit. Now suppose that there are all the other firms are also enjoying supernormal profit. As a result of this, new firms will enter into the industry, and therefore supply will increase. As supply increases, supply curve shifts to the rightwards direction from S0 S0 to the SE SE position. So therefore price level declines and it comes down to PE, at which the average revenue curve is tangent to the long run average cost curve at point E. So therefore all the firms are earning only normal profit at this situation, and industry has reached its long run equilibrium position, which is denoted by point E in the panel A. So in the long run equilibrium situation, individual farm is producing O small QE amount of output, and summation of all the outputs of all the farms is actually shown by the amount O capital QE in the left panel, that is in panel A, which is the industry output level. So in this way the long run equilibrium is reached for the farm and also for the industry in a perfectly competitive market, where all the farms will only earn the normal profit.